In today's video, I am going to be painting the Wealth's Eye. That's harder to say than I thought it would be. This project is special in that it went through a lot of redesign. The first idea was that the iris of the eye would be kind of a silver platter with maybe some engravings or something, filled with gold coins and brooches and jewelry, and that the pupil would be a big red jewel viewed from the top, like a faceted gem. But I quickly realized that I had no idea how to paint a gem from the top, and I didn't really want to, and I didn't really care about trying. It felt maybe a bit boring, just a gemstone. I felt like there needed to be something more. So instead, I went with a crown. But this did come with some issues that I'm going to cover later. So for now, let's just focus on the crown. So to make the crown, I basically just made a thick red coat at the center, leaving a border between it and the platter for gold trimmings for the structure of the crown. And then I waited for it to dry. This first session, I had to wait for it to dry to do anything else. And for the sides of the platter, I made these. I viewed them like embedded pearls that have been installed into the platter permanently, like a real fancy plate to hold the crown, and with some different silver to frame each pearl that I'm painting here. I won't linger a lot on these engravings and these. I technically spent a lot more time on these than I show in this video. The type of silver was kind of fading into the previous type of silver, and these engravings won't be there by the end anyway, so I didn't care about leaving all the process there. So then to work the crown, on the next session over, I add some gold paint on the edge I'd left for the structure, and then I make a center point, the top of the crown, connect to the edge, and I don't think I counted the amount of ribs this crown has. I can just winged it, and then I view these dots as like golden buttons sewn into the fabric of the crown. And then I made sure that the center was more rounded and it was not just a dot, to make it feel like a structure. And here I'm trying to paint coins. Now here is the reason why I don't like those coins, and I think I should have thought more about what would happen with the iris once I changed the pupil from a gem to a crown. Because a crown has to fit on someone's head, it's kind of big, but a gemstone can be basically any size, and I viewed it that small, so the coins would have been much bigger and I would have been able to detail them with the initial plan. But once it was a crown, it couldn't be much. The coins couldn't be much bigger than that without being weird. So filling up the iris as much as I wanted to wasn't doable. like even without filling it fully, it just didn't look right for me. So I ended up scrapping all of what I'm currently painting with gold paint, all the coins, two necklaces, a cross, and I did try to vary color by adding white in places as a highlight, like here in the center of the gemstone. And I tried also to make a knife, but at this point, I was just throwing the knife on to see, is it salvageable, this project? But I didn't really believe it to be salvageable. By the time I added the black here, uh, I was certain I wouldn't. I basically decided I would give up on this idea. So I did add a spot of white at the center of the crown. I view that as be a ivory sphere on top of the crown, maybe engrave something. I don't know. That's the view here. And I did add a bracelet. I say I gave up by the time I made the knife, but not really. I was still trying to find ways to salvage it because I didn't want to. I did spend quite a lot of time on the edges of the plate, and I didn't really want to erase them. But I ended up deciding to cut my losses. So here I mixed up some gray, and I changed the plan. So a crown being kind of big and kind of important for, let's say, a nation, uh, it doesn't really sit on a platter or silverware. I imagine it mostly on a big ornate column or pedestal. So here, that's the new direction. So this gray I view as a very smooth rock that's been carved into a spire of sorts to hold the crown with a bunch of silver embedded into it. Uh, I chose to have the silver like it was following the whole of the column straight. Well, as straight as it can be if with the shape I imagine it to have in 3D. That's kind of a problem with painting viewed from the top like this. I kind of lose some of the effect or some of the detail of how I viewed this thing to be. But yeah, those lines to me, those are channels that have been carved into the rock and then filled with silver. And then, just to add some pizzazz and complexity with it, a silver spiral flowing down the pillar. This does add a bit more volume and dimensionality to the pedestal, and I think that was the choice that's convinced me not to change idea once more. When I just did the lines from the pupil to the iris, I was considering changing my mind again. Glad I didn't after all, but it was a consideration. And for the eyelids, I went with a yellow base coat to which I added golden highlights later, golden patternings later. And I did something new with this eye as far as the eyes I've painted so far. That'll come in later. So I'll talk a bit later. So here I added purple on the edge. That to me was to signify the carpet of the room that holds the crown, because purple is a royal color. I ended up not liking that it was just the edge. So later in the project, I have all of the white of the eye replaced by this royal purple. It's a big departure from what I've painted so far for the eyes, but I think it fits because it's crown, it's wealth, it's royalty, and those people don't tend to like fitting in with the rest of the crowd. The crowd here is all of my eyes that have basically for which I have left the white of the eye basically untouched. But royalty doesn't work like that. They want to stand out, so they decided to just carpet the whole thing. They want to pop. That's the role play reason for why I covered the purple. And here I'm using a metal spike I have lying around to paint just small dots, small green dots on each facet of the pillar. I'm thinking maybe those are emeralds or something, or other cheaper green gemstones. I'm not an expert on that. Emerald is just the first green precious rock I thought of. Maybe it's jade. I don't know. So through the trial and tribulations of this painting, I feel like I've ended up with the painting I can be happy of. It wasn't easy. I had to rethink a few times, but I think I nailed it overall. Now, maybe I should have made the iris smaller, because here the pedestals feel unreasonably large at the bottom of it, but it's not a big issue. It's just a nitpick. That's kind of the purpose of these commentaries, to nitpick my art. So that's what I'm doing. And here, the pattern for the gold I'd chosen is these waves of gold. Um, it just felt right. The It kind of serves as eyelashes and just another golden trimmings, maybe on the room that holds a crown, or maybe it's a sea kingdom, so the waves carry their wealth or something. I don't know. I'm kind of just spitballing potential symbolism. At the time, I just thought, that would be a cool way to pattern the eyelashes. I don't always think of all the symbolism and implications of what I do here painting. At least not at the moment. Afterwards, I kind of think, oh, it's cool that I did that this way. It could mean that and blah blah blah. But it's not a it's often not a predetermined choice. So here is where I expand the carpet, and with that, I've explained all that I needed to. Well, I did skip making the pattern for the other side of the eyelid. It just didn't feel necessary, just to save a bit of all of our time. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to come by whenever you want. Bye.